Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is my beginner's guide to an 8-minute 17. I'm using the Viper using -1 brake balance. Unlike most of the other step-by-step lap guides, we are at the Nurburgring 24-hour, and I think a step-by-step guide would probably be at least an hour long. Nonetheless, one thing that I found is this is probably my worst track. I'm always 10 seconds off the pace. It just seems, I think I may be a little bit too cautious, but these are just a few steps that I would suggest. First and foremost is using whatever car you're comfortable driving. A lot of cars you'll see in the top 10 will include the Huracan, which is very fast, yet very twitchy. Another car being the Toyota Supra, the Viper, etc. Lots of very, very fast cars that certainly require a lot of patience. So my lap, 8 minutes 17.7. That was the best I could muster this early in the day, despite my optimal being in the 8-minute 16s, which is still, it's a few seconds off the top 10 boards currently, and about 10 seconds off what the absolute aliens are driving. So the goal for this race is just to stay on the track. That is what I can offer to you, as this is not really a combination that suits my style. Nonetheless, happy to help in any way I can. So as we can see, this is not a full sped normal speed video. Actually doing half speed just to focus on my acceleration, my braking marks, without slowing things down too much. So despite setting a lap here in the Viper, I set pretty similar lap times in the Corvette, the Jaguar, and the BMW Z4. As you'll also tell, as I am using cones. I generally will use cones for most of my practice laps, and then when I feel comfortable, when I'm most familiar with the braking spots, then I will take the cones off. But absolutely, there's no shame in using assists. I've had races here where I had to actually drive the Nissan GTR, and I found that I was actually faster using, say, traction control 1 versus no traction control. A car like the GTR, or even a car like the Viper, tends to struggle a bit. If you're not super familiar with the track and the car combination, it can be pretty easy to spin out. Maybe get too much curb, maybe get on the throttle a little too early, spin out, and then, versus going a little bit slower, you could be losing in upwards of 15 seconds from one error. Going into this race, so it's a 2-lap race, we're racing on the racing hard compounds. Keep in mind, others are going to make errors. So there will be other people that, hey, they saw the Huracan on the top 10 leaderboard. You know what? I'm going to try that car. Well, best of luck to you. So just trying to keep the inputs relatively smooth. Not trying to use too much curb, and actually not trying to put the power down too much, especially through this slow left, right section. My biggest key to this race, and to any time you get on the Nürburgring Nordschleife in any sort of car, is be calm, because you got this. That is absolutely probably the #1 priority, is being calm, being patient. You are going to make mistakes. Just try and put a lap together, because even putting one lap together that maybe it's 20-30 seconds off the top 10 boards is better practice than trying to go as fast as you can, getting to the very end, and then just spinning out, losing all of your momentum. I think each of us has our track that we struggle at. This happens to be the one. So notice on the entrance to the turn we just did, I'll actually drop to 5th and then drop to 3rd at the very end of the rumble strips on the left. Just try and keep the car within the track limits. Avoid pushing too hard. One thing you'll notice as the sector marks come up, the first sector I was actually almost 3/10 faster than my previous lap, and then by the next sector I was in the red zone. So I probably lost, at this point in this lap, between going purple and right now, probably lost about 7/10 of a second. But nonetheless, try not to push the car too hard. After all, it is a very skinny track where passing will be quite a challenge. Just try and keep the car within the white lines. See, there again, I tend to brake a little bit early. I actually got a little nervous because I felt like I was carrying maybe a little too much speed, and I felt the car get a little squirrely there. So I certainly lost a couple tenths there, but nonetheless, as it says at the top, I hope you beat my time, and I think you will. There's many cars that are able to put a decent lap together here. A lot of cars which aren't included in the top 10 boards. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I was actually having some decent success with the BMW Z4 versus the M6, or even the M3 for that matter. Cars that are, perhaps a little bit smaller, like the Z4, even the Hyundai Genesis for that matter. You have a little bit more room to play with on the track. And if you're not super familiar with the layout of the Nurburgring Nordschleife, I do suggest using cones. As you'll see right here, the double cones is your suggested braking point, and then the single cone afterwards is your suggested turn-in point. Also keeping in mind, since we're on track by ourselves, the braking points ultimately aren't going to necessarily be the braking points when we're behind another car, when we're in the slipstream. Maybe we're going a little bit faster. Try and kind of coordinate so we're not right on someone, because as I had said that at the start, and as I'll say again, people are going to make mistakes. People are going to try and go side by side into some of these slow turns. A little bit of side-by-side contact could result in a penalty, drivers getting pushed off. So despite this this motivational track guide in the Viper, I have found that the BMW Z4 is a lot more stable of a car, especially because it allows you to use second gear and be able to come out of a turn, put the power down without getting too much wheel spin and too much loss of stability. So here, even at this point in the lap, 5 minutes into it, still have 3 minutes to go, I was about 0.9 off the previous time, but this still ended up being the fastest lap. Now, heading towards the first bowl, super important to not go in too hot. So here we're going to brake right at the cones, drop to second gear, actually take our feet off the brake, just a little bit of acceleration. And right after the bowl goes from an embankment to flat track, that's where I put the power down. Anything before that, I kept spinning out. This particular car, the Viper, I found somewhat similar to even the GTR. Using third gear tends to maintain stability a bit more, especially exiting slower turns. Second gear just upset the car way too much with really any form of acceleration. See that right at the top. Smooth plus smart equals fast. Might have the pace to run an 8-minute 10. You may also run the risk of getting a little bit sloppy towards the end, trying to push the car. Unlike some of the other tracks that we see here on the daily races on FIA, tracks that are perhaps a little bit more flat and have a little bit more width to them, we do want to use up the majority of the track, but we certainly don't want to risk going off. Alright, once again, reiterating, be calm, because you're almost there. At this point, we've got under 2 minutes left of the lap. Just bring the car home. Focus on just getting a lap together. And with the current penalty system, even though they've done their updates, there still appears to be some issue, I think. One of the things that works for me is, if you have a faster car behind you, is to actually let them go through. Find a safe spot, put my blinker on, go ahead. Especially this kind of race where people in front of you are going to make mistakes, so people that are faster, that have figured out how to drive the Nordschleife, well, if they spin out, they're behind behind you now and they come up on you again, kind of give them the benefit of the doubt of, finding a safe spot to make the pass happen. That way, avoiding, getting a DR reset from this track. Having your safety rating just tank. Here we are coming around the final few turns. Hopefully these tips can offer some insight into allowing you to just put a lap together. Again, use a car that you're most comfortable with. If you get a little discouraged by some of the other cars listed, 5, 10, 15 seconds faster, just keep in mind that even Racing Swordsman is struggling here too. Thanks for watching. Bye.